Welcome to Payoff Pitch Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast. I'm Collin Whitchurch, joined by Sean Zerillo to look at the Friday MLB slate. It is September 5th. We're really reaching the climax of this MLB season. This Sunday will mark exactly 3 weeks from the final day of the regular season. Some races are coming into focus, others are trying to become more obscure. The AL wildcard race is getting really funny. Mariners have lost 3 straight now. The Rangers, I feel like people have written the obituary for the Rangers like every 2 weeks for the last 4 months. They're still 1.5 back. The Royals and the Rays, I couldn't believe this when I looked at the standings this morning. The Rays have won 7 straight, somehow just 2 games back with their really impressive run differential. Everyone wrote off some of these teams, but they're right there. The NL field, I think, is probably set. We'll probably know this weekend if that's true or not. The Mets are in Cincy, 3-game set. Reds are 5 back. They've actually fallen behind the Giants now in the wild card race. An obvious seller in the Giants. Feels like Cincy needs a sweep here, stay in the race these final 3 weeks. Otherwise, I think the 6 NL teams might be set. A couple other big series this weekend: Blue Jays, Yankees, and the Bronx. Yankees are 3 back, Red Sox 3.5 back entering the day. The Rangers are 5 back of the Astros, but right on the heels of the Mariners, as I mentioned. Rangers Astros this weekend, while Seattle is in Atlanta facing the Braves. We'll talk about some of these games. We'll also always go where the value shows, of course. Let's get started with our best bets, and I'll get us started today because I just couldn't wait to wax poetic about another exciting young pitcher who's on the mound tonight and who I see value in the strikeout market. Big surprise. I've done this with Chase Burns. I've done this with Zebby Matthews. I've done this with so many young pitchers. Peyton Tolley on the mound for the Red Sox tonight for his second major league start. I mentioned him an episode or 2 ago when he made his debut. Couldn't figure out what the pronunciation of his last name is. It is Tolley. He was barely on the prospect radar entering 2024. One of the biggest pop-up arms in the sport. Second-round pick in 2024. Now a legitimate top 50 prospect in the sport in a flash. His fastball is one of the highest graded pitchers among any pitching prospect in the minors this year. Some scouts I've seen have even thrown an 80 on his fastball on the 2080 scouting scale. He's at 96, touched 99 at times in the minors. And the Red Sox have really tinkered with him. Just in the year plus they've been working with him, they've had him add a cutter. He's got a hard slider and a slurve he's been working on. He already had a changeup, kind of an average pitch, but it's improving, and it's a playable pitch. We've seen this year books slow to buy in to a prospect being a true bat misser in their first couple starts. I mentioned Chase Burns. Saw insane value on him his first couple starts in the majors. With the Reds, he was seeing absurdly low K totals, 4.5, 5.5. They just offered insane value. He was striking out 8+ guys every start. Totally struck out 9 in his MLB debut. He makes a second start tonight against the Diamondbacks. His strikeout total sitting at 4.5. To be fair, it is heavily juiced to the over, but there's still great value here. You're seeing the prices all over the board right now this morning. Bet365, as of this recording, hanging the over at -120. All over that. DraftKings up at -160. FanDuel around -170. All are playable, but of course, shop around for the best price at the time you listen to this. The impulse here, and what I've done frequently in starts like this, is to ladder Tolley up. I'm going to be a bit risk averse here, just because of the matchup for Tolley. I love his K upside overall. I think he gets to 5 with relative ease today, but the Diamondbacks are one of the more strikeout averse teams in the majors against lefties. So I'd recommend a little bit of caution here before getting too crazy with bets up in the 8, 9, 10 range. Still, I love the over 4.5 here. I'd play it probably -175 or better, depending on where these books end up settling at as the dust settles. All right, Sean, let's get to your best bet. It made me laugh when I saw it in the doc this morning. I have a play on this game as well in the underdog section. We're going to Padres Rockies, where both of us are betting on a Kyle Freeland start for the second time in 4 days. How is that possible? Well, Kyle Freeland absolutely fucked us on Tuesday with our Giants Rockies under. If you weren't paying attention, I don't blame you if you weren't paying attention to a Giants Rockies game. Freeland turned into a whiny little baby when Rafael Devers pimped his home run, promptly getting ejected in the first inning, forced us to have to deal with Antonio Senzatella and the Rockies bullpen the rest of the way. We had the under on that game. Ended 7-4. Freeland getting ejected there, probably a big role in that. Tonight, Freeland is starting again, of course, because he barely threw on Tuesday. Padres have not officially announced a starting pitcher as of this recording, although all indications are it's going to be Nick Pivetta. And you're going back to the well on a Freeland start today.
Yeah, this has to be the first time I've ever talked about the same starting pitcher on a Tuesday and a Friday podcast in the same week. So that's a unique one. Kyle Freeland, you're now the answer to a payoff pitch trivia question. So both pitchers keep the opponent in their lesser split here, and I think that's a large part of the under. Also, a little bit of pitcher-friendly weather in Colorado today as we get into September, progress later into the season. You're starting to see the temperatures around the country in a lot of these parks drop into the 60s. In Colorado tonight, 69 degrees, very nice, 69 degrees at first pitch and 6-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from right center field. So good pitching weather. Do not have umpire information as of yet. We'll adjust the total when that info comes out. But as I said, both offenses in their lesser split here. The Padres dropped from 13th to 18th in terms of WRC plus, righty versus lefty. They go from 3% above average against righties to 5% below against left-handed pitching. They have been a little bit better since the deadline, extending their lineup out. Laureano obviously helps them against left-handed pitching as well. But in their lesser split here, as are the Rockies. The Rockies on the year, 29th against right-handed pitching, a 70 WRC plus. Actually, this is last 30-day splits. Rockies 29th, a 70 WRC plus against righties. They are 20th against lefties, closer to league average, running a 96 WRC plus over the past month. So Colorado against a righty, presuming Nick Pivetta for the Padres tonight. That has been confirmed by multiple different beat reporters, even though he's not listed officially on MLB.com. It should be Pivetta tonight, TBD for the Padres on Saturday, and then Dylan Cease on Sunday. The last piece of this, the Rockies bullpen has actually pitched better of late. Last 30 days, they moved up to 20th and 18th respectively in strikeout minus walk and expected FIP. They are closer to 30th, obviously, over the full year and have had one of the worst bullpens in baseball aside from the Nationals. So a little bit of bullpen improvement for the Rockies, both offenses in their lesser split. I make this total about 10.5. It went up to 11.5 and is coming back down, settling at 11. I think it'll end up closing at 11, closer to minus 120 than minus 110. I doubt this gets all the way back to 10.5, but I do make it 10.5, and I like the under 11 to minus 110.
I'm on this game as well. Transition nicely right into our favorite underdog section. Small bet for me here. I didn't see a lot in the underdog market that really caught my eye. A lot of plus money again for the second time this week. I won't reiterate a lot of what Sean just said about the splits here, but yeah, I do like to fade the Padres in their lesser split. There aren't a lot of positive stats you can spin about the Rockies, like, oh, they're going to win today because X. I'll just say they've been significantly better offensively against right-handed pitching since the trade deadline. Still a bad offense, no matter how you slice it. But the hope here is you get the more erratic version of Nick Pivetta. Some pitcher stuff just doesn't work at Coors. Everyone's stuff doesn't work as well at Coors. But Pivetta, it's worth noting, he started at Coors back in May when the Rockies were in the midst of their absolutely historically bad stretch. And he allowed 6 runs in 4 innings. So, Pivetta has been great this year for the most part. But I think that just from a pure line perspective, this is too long, considering the Rockies are a little bit better right now than people expected. And again, you're getting the Padres offense in their less split. So
yeah, I'll take about plus 170. So there's definitely an edge on Colorado. It's just like any other day, whether I feel like exposing myself to that trauma. So not for me, probably in the Rockies money line today, unless it crosses closer to like plus 220, but definitely the under.
Yeah, I'm on the Rockies today, though. Small bet, like I said, plus 190 is what I got the Rockies money line at this morning. Sean, you're going to another bad baseball team for your favorite underdog. Twins are in Kansas City. Michael Wacha on the mound for the Royals. Twins are another team that, as of this recording, have not confirmed their starting pitcher, though it's supposed to be Pablo Lopez returning from injury, and that's where you're going for your underdog today.
Yeah, he got up to 85 pitches in his last rehab outing, so should be mostly stretched out. I doubt they push him too hard. I doubt they push him to 100 pitches just because he's coming off of a shoulder injury and you want to keep him healthy for 2026. But Pablo has been great this year, and he was good in those rehab assignments. He didn't really walk any batters the last 2 starts. Strikeouts were there. On the year, he's anywhere between a half run to a full run better than Michael Wacha. I project him closer to a full run. 3.4 expected ERA, Wacha 4.1. 3.6 expected FIP, Wacha 4.5, 3.4 bot ERA, Waka at almost 4 on the nose. So, like I said, between half a run and a full run, you could call it 3/4 of a run. I just do think Pablo Lopez is the better starting pitcher here, though. I make him a first 5 favorite. I make him closer to -110 for the first 5 innings. So you can bet Twins first 5 and avoid their terrible bullpen. I believe they're close to 30th in expected FIP and strikeout minus walk over the past month. The Twins bullpen has been abysmal. They traded everybody in it. Duran and Varland, and I mean, I'm going to run out of names, but literally
Griffin Jacks, Brock Stewart.
Jacks, who's starting for the Rays today.
Yeah.
He's been terrible for the Rays, but he is opening for them today ahead of my duty and Seymour, who we'll get to. So, yeah, it's been a rough watch for the Twins. They also just got mopped by the White Sox at home, 4-game sweep at home. They really have nothing left to play for except potentially spoiling the Royals' minimal playoff chances. So, hopefully Pablo comes out cooking tonight. And I make this game right about a coin flip, about plus 102. So anything plus 110 or better on Minnesota, and you can get plus 120 currently.
If you bet on Sean bringing up the White Sox on this episode before I did, go ahead and cash your ticket. Huge
plus
underdog
300
prices. Also, that fits well in the underdog section. Hey, football season is here, folks. We've got some huge improvements and updates coming on the award-winning Action Network app, which we're very excited to discuss in the weeks ahead. But to get the most out of the app, you've still got to be an Action Pro subscriber. It's only with Action Pro you get real-time pick alerts from Sean Zerillo and the entire Action Network team of experts. Plus, you can access pro projections powered by Sean Kerner and our predictive analytics team, and a ton of other benefits. And right now, Payoff Pitch listeners can save $20 off the annual price of Action Pro. Just go to actionnetwork.com/pro and use code PAYOFF20. That's actionnetwork.com/pro, code PAYOFF20 for $20 off the annual price of Action Pro. All right, final bets time. Sean, you have a whole bunch. I have exactly one. We'll start off with you on a game we already talked about, Red Sox Diamondbacks. I mentioned I'm on the totally over. I don't know where you land on that. You're not as big of a prop guy as I am, but you do have a side in that game that might be fading my new favorite young ace.
Not necessarily fading totally directly, because Eduardo Rodriguez does put the Red Sox in a much worse split as well. So I actually think the D-backs are capable of winning a surprising low-scoring game here, despite their bullpen being terrible. But the Red Sox on the year, or the Red Sox last 30 days, 8% above against righties, 108 WRC plus, a 79 WRC plus against lefties, a bottom 3 offense, I believe, over that span against left-handed pitching. And over the exact same span, the D-backs have a 151 WRC plus against lefties. They've been the 4th best offense against left-handed pitching. They're at 104 on the season against lefties. The Red Sox are at 100. So even though the D-backs traded away Eugenio Suarez, traded away Josh Naylor, they can actually still hit. They have a very good philosophy as a team. As you mentioned, they do not strike out a ton, but they also take a lot of pitches and get very deep into counts. And even the guys they went out and traded for, Tyler Locklear, have like massive upside. Gurriel can still pound the ball. So yeah, I still like this Arizona offense, especially against left-handed pitching. As you can see in the splits, I make the game about -105. I would bet them down to plus 103. I'm sure the Red Sox are a very popular bet with how they've been playing, with this young, exciting pitcher on the mound, and with how poorly Eduardo Rodriguez has pitched this season. But the splits on both sides certainly favor Arizona. So as I said, bet them down to plus 103, and that's probably an equivalent underdog for me as the Twins. The D-backs, the Twins, and the Pirates are the 3 dogs I fired on today. We'll get to the Pirates in a moment. I like the Pirates the least of those 3. The Diamondbacks and the Twins are probably comparable for me.
Public money is on the Red Sox right now as of our pro report public betting as of this recording. 63% of the money. I'm sorry, 63% of the bets and 54% of the money on the Red Sox. So does favor the Diamondbacks in terms of potential sharp money. You mentioned the Pirates. Couple NL Central teams you're backing today, one of which was not a surprise to me at all when I looked at the document this morning, looked at the rundown of starting pitchers. Michael McGreevy, your boy, Kyle Loesch 2.0 on the mound tonight against the Giants. And then the other one, I'll let you talk about both at the same time, is the Pirates, as you mentioned, against the Brewers. I looked at this really hard for the underdog section. I really wanted to bet the Pirates. ultimately was scared off, but maybe you'll convince me here as to why I should be betting the Pirates today. And Johan Oviedo against the otherworldly reclamation project of Quinn Priester.
Yeah, former Pirates farmhand Quinn
Yeah,
Priester, right?
top
So I made this.
prospect.
Yeah. Traded him to Boston, then Boston immediately flipped him to Milwaukee, and now he's pitched pretty well for the Brewers. Kind of a wonder too that the Red Sox like couldn't optimize him either, because they've been great at pitch design and tweaking guys. Kyle Harrison came back to the big leagues the other day. I believe they added a cutter and a kick change for him. They added maybe a bridge slider and a kick change. They added two different pitches to Harrison's arsenal. So curious to see how he pitches the rest of the way too. It was very bizarre. I'm not sure if he was opening in the minors or if they just decided to use it, or if he was coming in relief in the minors for them, or if he was starting. I'm pretty sure he was starting, and then they used openers in front of him and brought him into an absolutely like brutal situation with runners on base in the second inning. I don't get it. And putting guys down in the minors, like using them as starting pitchers, and then you bring them back up and you're like, we're actually going to use you out of the bullpen today and put you in with runners on base and make you super uncomfortable. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me ever when they do that. They also opened with a lefty ahead of him against other lefties. Like, why is Bernardino facing lefties when you have a left? Anyway, the Pirates today, I can't really do much other than just tell you I make this game plus 120. The number is plus 135. You could probably logically assume that the Brewers will be a little bit overvalued against the Pirates, because who wants to bet the Pirates other than when Paul Skeens is starting? People did bet the Pirates yesterday. I was on the Dodgers. I was wrong. The line ended up moving towards Pittsburgh pretty dramatically, actually, like 10 cents, 15 cents by close, which does not happen in Dodgers games, and really doesn't happen in Dodgers games when anybody good is starting. When Snell or Glasnow or anybody like that is starting, the line typically does not move against the Dodgers. It did with the Pirates yesterday. They ended up sweeping the Dodgers at home. They've kind of owned the Dodgers in recent years. Hopefully they can keep it going against the Brewers today. The one thing I can point to for the Pirates in terms of being an argument for this is a okay bet, last 2 weeks, 7th in WRC plus, a 117. So they are actually hitting at the moment. This is one of the most putrid offenses in baseball, at least it has been for most of the year. Oviedo, I've said recently, even though he's pitching well, I don't see anything new in his arsenal that would suggest that he should continue to outperform previous levels. There's no new pitch mix. He's not throwing any harder. Pitching models still don't like him. So there's not a lot I can point here and say, this is a standout fact. This is why we're betting the Pirates today. I just think the number's a little inflated, and their offense is actually hitting recently, which gives me a little bit of confidence. Going to the Cardinals game, both of these bets might be out of range at this point. The closer one to being in range is Cardinals money line. I like that to minus 115, even up to minus 120 with McG or McGroovy, however you want to nickname him. I also bet the under 8.5 here. It has moved down to 8. I would not touch it at that point. So leave the under alone. Do not try to bet into it with these two bad bullpens or two lesser bullpens. Mostly banking on McGreevy just having a safer floor than Seymour and the Giants bullpen. Seymour, a 10% walk rate. His expected indicators all near 5, 4.7 expected FIP, 4.96 body RA. McGreevy, a little bit more confident, that walk rate near 3%. The expected ERA 4.7. So he's gotten hit a little bit, but Seymour's is 7.3. Seymour's probably only going to pitch 3 innings. I'd say at max here, maybe 4 at max. Where McGreevy is going to be in there for hopefully 6 innings. So there is, a difference in the usage, but these bullpens are both kind of down relative to where you had them a month ago, right? They both traded a bunch of arms at the deadline. Does get a little sweaty in terms of the under 8.5 late, but I do make the Cardinals closer to minus 125 here. So happy to lay juice on them today in a matchup at home. And hopefully we can cash both the Cardinals and the under in a 4-3 win.
Yeah, mentioning the Brewers potentially being overvalued. Since their 14-game winning streak was snapped, just 8-11 since then. They've let the Cubs kind of hang around. I think their lead in the NL Central grew up to like 9, 10, 11 games. It's only 5.5 as we enter play. They're
little regression with runners in scoring position. They were they were hitting 500 every game yesterday against the Phillies. I think they went over 10 and stranded runners in like every inning. So,
yeah,
the regression comes for everybody.
Can you win, as Sam Miller posited, can you win a World Series with infield against infield grounders.
Yeah, and that's the real key. Like, no Cabrian Hayes for the Pirates now. Like, that does make it, a little bit more difficult to beat a team like the Brewers. If you haven't read that article, it's a really fun article by Sam Miller. Basically, if you removed all of the Brewers' infield hits, they go from the best batting average in baseball. If you remove the number of hits that the Brewers have, I believe above average on ground balls, they go from the highest batting average in baseball to a league average team in terms of batting average. They're really good at putting the ball in play, making fielders make plays, and then taking extra bases on you when you make mistakes. And often those mistakes are going to come trying to make close plays at first base. And then you throw the ball over the first baseman's head or you bounce it in the dirt and the merry-go-round starts. That's Brewers baseball. They do it to people constantly. It's absolutely torture to watch when you have bets against them or when you have bets on the under, because they get a lot of runs that are on balls that are not even leaving the infield. But yeah, that is their skill as a team. Put the ball in play, make stuff happen.
Yeah, another way I heard put it is that the Brewers give teams 27 outs to win, and other teams are giving Brewers 28 outs.
Yeah,
going to be one of the most fascinating stories to watch as we enter October. A couple more bets to give out here. There's one more that you and I are both on. I'll talk about Mets Reds. Again, we talked about probably the most anticipated series of the weekend, alongside probably Blue Jays Yankees. It was kind of a surprising line for me to see in this matchup of David Peterson against our boy Andrew Abbott. I know we've talked about Abbott quite a bit this year, one of the more confounding pitchers to bet on or against. I do think he's starting to wear down here down the stretch. He walked 4 his last time out. He gave up 6 runs to start before that. And David Peterson's a ground ball machine. Ground ball rate north of 50% this season. Really good ingredient to have when pitching in Cincy. The Reds are one of the worst offenses in baseball against left-handed pitching. The Mets are more average against lefties than righties. They are in their worst split here, which is why I'm going to be interested in your play here in a second, Sean. But just to keep it short and simple, I trust the Mets offense more against Abbott than I do the Reds offense against Peterson. So I'm on the Mets money line tonight, minus 118. Tell us about your play on the total for this one.
Yeah, I make this total about 9.7, so I like the over 9 to minus 115. It is already juiced to minus 120 in most places, so I wouldn't bet it past minus 120. And I would certainly take minus 120 as opposed to 9.5 at even money. But that's the upper limit of where I'd bet it. The Mets have just been going over nonstop for a month. 19, 10, and 2 to the over since the trade deadline. And they've been covering the total. They've been covering the over by an average margin of 3.6 runs per game. These are not barely going over. They're exploding over the totals. They've been the best offense in baseball since the deadline, a 144 WRC plus. And if you narrow the split to the last 30 days, they're up to a 154. The next closest teams are the Yankees and the Jays. They're down at 132. So the Mets have been more than 50% better than the average offense, than an average offense over the past 30 days, and more than 20% better than the second and third best offenses over the past 30 days. Just absolutely astounding how much they've scored, but also their bullpen has struggled. Largely aside from Edwin Diaz, Ryan Helsley still seems like he's tipping pitches. They're aware of the fact that he's tipping pitches. He still came in to his last appearance and got hit again. So there's really not too many arms you trust in that bullpen besides Diaz and maybe Tyler Rogers. Are coming in after an off day. Both teams are. So maybe the bullpen's a little bit better rested here. And also, as you said, this is a key series the rest of the way. So I would anticipate both managers will have a relatively quick hook and look to get relievers in and out of the game throughout the series because both of these teams need these games. But yeah, I think the Mets, offense just absolutely on fire right now. And should mention too, the wind is blowing out here in Cincinnati tonight out to left field. Best home run venue in all of baseball. And the Mets have been hitting homers in bunches lately. So yeah, over 9 up to minus 120 would be my cutoff.
Mets also very key getting Francisco Alvarez back from the IL tonight, expected to be activated tonight. He was absolutely crushing the ball after returning from the minors before suffering that injury. So that'll be a big boost to an offense that doesn't even seem like
exactly the type of park too where he accidentally hits an opposite field home run because the fences are in so short. He's just like he's gonna just flick one the other way, and it's
it's great. It's great for offense too because you get the offensive boost with Alvarez's bat and the defensive downgrade going from Torrens to Alvarez.
Every time there's a pitch in the dirt with the runner on first, it becomes a double. So he's a good pitch framer. He has a really good arm. I'm not sure how good of a pitch framer he is. He was good last year. He's bad this year. His arm is great. He has really good power and he has a really good throwing arm. but he's not good at blocking the ball in the dirt at all. He's like probably the worst, other than he might be the worst. It's him. I think Austin Wells grades really low on pitch blocking too. Both New York catchers have some defensive issues at times. So, and I don't know if you saw that the stuff with Austin Wells and the lost in translation stuff the other day too. But people want Ben Rice to be the Yankees catcher purely because he's bilingual and can actually communicate with their pitchers once the pitch comm fails. I guess the Yankees only have one Spanish speaking pitch comm. I don't know why you don't have more than one, but it failed on them the other night. There was a dispute with the umpire. And I believe it was, I'm not remembering which pitcher it was, but the Astros ended up getting a run basically off of the fact that the Yankees could not communicate between their pitcher and catcher over the pitch comm because it was in the wrong language.
I do want to put you on the spot here a little bit, just while we're talking about the Mets, before we get to your last couple bets. One of the most interesting teams going into October here. With this offense, with all the young pitchers they've called up. Wild card weekend, they're going to LA, they're going to Philly, 3-game series. Who are the 3 starting pitchers for the Mets? Who's starting games 1, 2, and 3 with these young arms plus these veterans?
Yeah, that's the real question, right? Who will it be versus who should it be? So the Mets are trying to demote Senga right now. They want him to accept a minor league rehab assignment because he's pitched so poorly. I think their confidence in Sean Manaea has certainly been shaken of late, but to go into a series and not expect Manaea and Peterson to start, I think would be a little naive. Yeah. Beyond that, I think it has to be McClain and Tong. You know, they just give you the most upside. Clay Holmes obviously has pitched as a reliever a ton in the past. He's thrown a ton of innings this year. I don't really think it makes sense to continue to use him as a starter in the playoffs when he's probably going to be more effective as a reliever anyway. And you have other arms who can eat those innings. So, yeah, I think Peterson, Manaea, McClain, Tong, and then we'll see how Brandon Sproat looks, but he might be the 5th option.
Yeah, really, really interesting. I'm really interested in seeing how Carlos Mendoza manages this with like the
to be clear, Colin, I think McClain should start game 1. I don't think he will start game 1, but I think he should start game 1.
That's exactly what I was going to say, because there's clubhouse politics in play, right? There's veteran deferential. That's why I'm really interested to see how Mendoza plays this. Does he go with Peterson, Manaea, Senga, Holmes, save McClain, Tong, Sproat for like fireman type situations, long relief, whatever? Does he go with who's pitching best right now? Maybe hurt some feelings along the way. Really fascinating thing to watch these last 3 weeks and into October, because it looks like, the Mets, if the season ended today, they would be going to, who's the 3rd division leader in the NL? They'd be going to Los Angeles. They'd be playing 3 games in Los Angeles against the Dodgers. Like, your pitching choices there are critical in terms of who you're going to be starting those games.
And they would, against the Dodgers, it does certainly move up Peterson and Manaea, because they just threw those guys as much as possible against Freeman and Ohtani last postseason. And when Muncy was in there too, they would just try to get as much as they could out of Peterson against those left-handed bats. So it's a little bit different for the Dodgers, maybe not even with the Phillies have the lefties you have to be worried about as well. So yeah, I think no matter what, Peterson, Manaea, are starting. It's just a question of whether it's games 1 and 2 or 1 and 3 or 2 and 3,
Yeah. We have turned this into a bit of a Mets podcast. You've got a couple more bets to give out. We mentioned the Dodgers. You've got a total on Dodgers-Orioles tonight. That pitching matchup is Tyler Glasnow against my boy, Dean Kramer. What do you like in that one?
Yeah, 83 degrees, 6-mile-an-hour winds out to left field tonight. I make this total about 9.4. The Dodgers have not been hitting, though, which is, makes this one a little bit scary. Obviously, a little bit softer for landing spot facing Dean Kramer as opposed to Paul Skeens. But just in general, this Dodgers offense is not the same as it's been in years past. Mookie Betts seems like a free out most of the time at this point. Just in terms of the price point, there are some 8.5 minus 120s out there right now. And there's some 9 at even money. When I'm at the key number, said this in the past, just want to reiterate, the 20-cent difference is basically neutral. 9 at even is essentially equivalent to 8.5 at minus 120 for me. So take the 8.5. So if it lands on 9, we win our bet. If you're more risk averse in terms of playing juice, the 9 at even money is fine. It's the same bet. If it was 8 minus 120 versus 8.5 even money, the difference is worth about 18 cents as opposed to 20. So just like to shout that out whenever it pops up. But Dodgers and Orioles over 9, tepidly up to minus 105. Obviously prefer the 8.5 minus 120 where it is right now. And then the Rays probably out of range. This would have been my favorite bet for today had it not moved 20 cents. Obviously like the direction of the move, just unfortunately can't give it out as an official bet on the show. But keep an eye on Ian Seymour going forward. All of his projections are around 4.2. For a FIP projection, his bot ERA is 4.5. I watched this guy. He's super deceptive. He's carried high strikeout rates through the minor leagues, high 20% through the minor leagues. He's carrying it into the majors. I think this is a guy who's going to continue to outperform his projections just because his delivery is very deceptive, left-handed guy. I think he's going to continue to give opposing offensive fits. So Ian Seymour, I think, is much better than the projection market says that he is. More of a scouting play than a numbers play. But there are some numbers to justify Seymour pitching as well as he has. The expected ERA, if you factor that in pretty heavily, you can get the Rays up to a pretty substantial favorite here. So Rays up to minus 125 if it happens to come back down. And then lastly, watch the Cubs under this afternoon. I think this one opened at 10.5, got banged down to 10, now is up to 10.5 again, and it seems like it may eventually move to 11. 15-mile-an-hour winds out here at Wrigley this afternoon. This is a Cubs Friday 5. I forgot what the bet used to be for the Cubs on Friday afternoons, but if the Cubs were favored on Friday afternoon, you lay the 1.5 was the typical bet, especially
Cubs
in games
0.5,
where there's a high
Cubs
total.
0.5.
Cubs 1 point. Cubs Friday 1.5.
Cubs
right?
0.5.
0.5. Yeah. So this total is very likely to close at 11. I would say, if not even 11.5. I'm going to continue to wait on this. I want to see umpire information. We should have lineups not too long after this pod is released. One thing I want to watch in the lineups: Willie Castro played center field for the Cubs the other day over PCA. I do not have a bigger defensive downgrade in my model than PCA swapping out for Willie Castro. Castro is one of the worst graded defenders, period, in the sport at any position. PCA is obviously one of the best at any position. And Castro didn't play terribly out there the other day. He got an RBI single, I believe, but he also ended up going back and making a nice catch near the wall. I would assume PCA will be back in there today and Castro will be out in right field, but just want to confirm that before I fired it under, because there's a huge difference between those two defensively in the middle of that outfield. But yeah, even with the wind out, 15 miles an hour, as I said, 64 degrees today in Chicago and not particularly humid. So yes, I understand the increase in the total. I do think at 11, it's getting a little bit too far. So if it goes up to 11, I would take the 11 to minus 110. Otherwise, for right now, we're going to hold off on this game. Just need to see lineups and umpires in order to make a decision.
It is windy in Chicago, can confirm, but it's also cool. High of just 67 here today. No umpire information there yet, as you mentioned. My favorite fact about you mentioning Ian Seymour before we get out of here is the last time someone with a surname Seymour played in MLB was 1913, when Cy Seymour retired after a 17-year career, mostly with the New York Giants. We've had 3 debut in the last month and a half, 2 months. Ian, Bob, and Carson. What's that? Yeah, 2 of them are pitching today. Ian and Carson. Bob Seymour also obviously plays for the Rays. It is an influx of Seymours, serving up some steamed hams here.
This could be the first time we've had a trio of Seymour surnames maybe play on the same day. So yes. I'm not sure if Carson and Ian pitched on different days previously, but if they did, Bob would have had to play. So maybe we get a Bob pinch hit appearance tonight and all 3 get in.
All right, that'll do it for today's episode of Payoff Pitch. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to tail some of the bets from today's episode, look for the quick slip links in the episode description. Don't forget to download the free award-winning Action Network app and leave us that 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to the podcast. Also, if you're on X, formerly known as Twitter, or in our Discord channel, be sure to tag at Playbook for all of your plays. Our new tool, instant bet slips at your fingertips. Go to @Playbook on X for more information there. Also in our Discord channel, which there is a link to in the episode description of this podcast as well. We will be back on Monday with another episode of Payoff Pitch. You can tune into that episode live on the Action Network's YouTube page at 10 a.m. Eastern. For Sean Zerillo, I'm Collin Whitchurch. Thanks for listening to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast. Good luck with all your bets and have a great weekend.